Welcome back everyone, it's Charlie. This is my Black Panther Wakanda Forever video all about how Kang created and is creating X-Men mutant characters inside the MCU because of what he's doing. So there's a bunch of Easter eggs and connections to break down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. I know a lot of you also have questions about Marvel's new X-Men movie that they're also working on in the background. I'll address that too. And careful for spoilers if you haven't seen the movie yet. During the movie, we learned that Namor is a genuine mutant. They don't play the X-Men the Animated Series theme music like they did during Patrick Stewart's Professor X scene in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness or the Miss Marvel finale when they revealed that she was a mutant too. Like they really wanted to be on the nose in those cases. Namor is just the next biggest example of a mutant that's been inside the MCU this whole time that we're just learning about now. So a big part of the movie is also explaining what created mutants in the MCU in his case, because there are a number of different ways that mutants were created, like there's no one single way. And also why we're just learning about him now after all these Marvel movies since the beginning of Phase 1. For Namor, the answer is that he's been hiding himself and his people this whole time and preventing knowledge of their race from spreading by basically killing anyone who learned about them for the past 500 years. And until they introduce a version of Apocalypse, or Selene from the comics in the 616 universe, Namor is currently the oldest mutant. That's also meant to be an Easter egg for Namor in the comics being referred to as the first mutant, like literally they call him the first mutant, because in the real-life history of comics, he was the first character to be called a mutant before the X-Men were created in the 1960s. But for example, Hugh Jackman's Wolverine was born in the early 1800s, a little under 200 years ago. Also important to note that just because we're seeing mutants coming from the MCU recently, they've been hiding out, they've been around this whole time, we're also seeing them come from the multiverse from other universes because we're in the middle of the multiverse saga. Some of the other mutants' core X-Men characters will come from other universes. Like the Fox Marvel Universe in the case of Deadpool and Wolverine in Deadpool 3. I just did a big video about that because we learned that Mobius and the TVA from the Loki series are going to be big parts of that movie. I'll add a link for that at the end of this in the description below. Deadpool kills the Fox Marvel Universe.
McAvoy or Stewart? These timelines are so confusing.
But inside the MCU, there are a couple different things that created mutants or led to the creation of mutants. The reason Namor was born a mutant was because his mother ingested the heart-shaped herb when she was pregnant with him. T'Challa's father, King T'Chaka, and T'Challa both had the Wakandan version of the heart-shaped herb in their systems when they fathered children. So I know a lot of you are asking now, does that mean the baby Azari T'Challa in the post-credit scene is a mutant now too? Why wasn't T'Challa himself born a mutant? The answer to that is that mutants are kind of like a genetic dice roll probability kind of thing. Like just because your parents might be mutants or because your mother might ingest the heart-shaped herb when she's pregnant with you doesn't guarantee that you're going to be born a mutant. We're getting new episodes of X-Men the Animated Series on Disney Plus next year. Really good example of that during that series is Graydon Creed, one of the major antagonists of the series. He's the son of both Sabretooth and Mystique. He was born without any powers. It's just a way to explain how T'Challa was not born with powers even though his father had the heart-shaped herb in his system. T'Challa's son could still be a mutant in the comics, like we just saw his character. The future is wide open for him, they can do whatever they want to with that character, and it will make sense. Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver are another big examples. They were born mutants in the MCU. Scarlet Witch's children, Billy and Tommy, are also mutants as well. In their case, as is the case with most of the other mutants, core X-Men characters in general, is the X gene. Like that's the other big deciding factor. Because there are characters who are biologically altered on the genetic level later in life, like Spider-Man, the Hulk, Maria Rambeau, and they're not mutants, they're called mutates. When stuff like that happens to you, like when Spider-Man got the spider bite or Hulk was altered by the gamma experiments, they were called mutates, not mutants. The whole idea with the X gene is that it's sort of like the X factor, so to speak, talking about X-Men Easter eggs, where a lot of people are born with it, and when it expresses when you're born, that's when you become a mutant. Like just because you have the X gene doesn't guarantee that you're going to be born with powers. Really good example of this is the Miss Marvel character because she's a mutant in the MCU, we just learned.
Something different in your genes. Like a mutation.
She comes from a race of alternate dimension beings called Jinn, and not all the other people in her race are like her. They explained that because her parents conceived her inside the alternate dimension of the MCU, that's why she was born with the X gene, and it was wearing the band with the cosmic energy that activated her X gene that expressed her mutant abilities. Talking more about the giant stone celestial in the Indian Ocean, a little while ago Marvel actually explained the origin of the X gene was from Tiamat, the celestial that was growing inside planet Earth. Basically, it's cosmic celestial blood leached into the soil, and kind of like the vibranium tainted the soil, creating the heart-shaped herb. The same thing happened across planet Earth, and it slowly mutated everyone's DNA, creating the X gene. And throughout history, major events have happened that have caused people's X genes to express. A long time ago, we also theorized that Thanos and Iron Man, the Hulk, everyone snapping the Infinity Gauntlet so many times on planet Earth in the MCU will cause a bunch of people's X genes to express, and that's how they would explain a lot of mutants just suddenly showing up out of nowhere. The difference with Miss Marvel's band, sort of tracing this back to the movies that are coming up, is that the writing on her band seems very similar to the writing, the markings on Shang-Chi's 10 Rings of Power, which seems very similar to the writing on Kang's rings on his time travel quantum device in the Ant-Man 3 Quantumania trailer. So it kind of seems like Kang might also be low-level responsible for the X-Gene and mutants in the MCU in some way, and I think they'll pay that off during Avengers 5 and Avengers 6 Secret Wars. But Namor's backstory, Ms. Marvel's backstory is just another way to explain how something big happens to express their X-Gene. So even though there's a lot of different things that are creating mutants in the MCU, if you want to point to like a single commonality, like the one thing in common that all these different mutants have, it's probably going to be Kang. Marvel's also never fully explained where vibranium came from, only that at some point at the beginning of time, like during the Big Bang, vibranium exploded across the universe and a bunch of meteorites deposited it all across the universe. So early theory on that is that Kang will also be tied to that as well. Playing the Agatha All Along theme music, everybody asking where vibranium came from, where mutants came from, pointed to Kang. It was Kang all along. I know a lot of you are asking about Storm now because she has such a deep connection with the Black Panther character in the comics, and obviously we're going to see a version of Storm show up in the MCU eventually. In the comics, she's born the princess of her tribe. She's part of this line of priestesses. They're actually located very close to Wakanda. Because of all the wars and the conflict, she winds up growing up on the streets of Egypt though, but later in life gets married to Black Panther. They're both royalty, they're both super powerful on political and just biological power levels. Storm is actually an Omega level mutant, like one of the most powerful types of mutants you could possibly be. She can control the weather, yes, but that's mostly because of the way she can control Earth's electromagnetic field. Magneto can also tap into and control the Earth's magnetic field, but his powers are way different. What they might be doing in the movies now, because of the way they changed the plot, the Black Panther Wakanda Forever post-credit scene, is because they've already changed T'Challa Black Panther's backstory so much already. He has the child with Nakia. They might eventually age T'Challa's son up, also named T'Challa, and when he becomes the next Black Panther, then he'll be the Black Panther to have a relationship with the new MCU version of Storm. Which is also probably one of the reasons why they waited so long to introduce a version of Storm. Like, nope, not yet. We're not ready. T'Challa's son's still a little kid. We don't need a version of Storm yet till he's a little bit older. It's another way to explain why you haven't seen like 1,000 X-Men show up in the MCU during Marvel Phase 4. Also, they are bringing back some multiverse versions. Like, really good example is Halle Berry's Storm in Secret Wars. She'll probably have some fun cameo scene, but I don't think she's going to permanently be the MCU version of Storm going forward. Like, they'll introduce a brand new young version of the character. The only ones that I think are safe from recasting in the near future, at least, are Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, Patrick Stewart's Professor X, and obviously Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool. Some of those actors will just continue to be the main versions of those characters for a long time, but eventually some of the other X-Men characters will be recast versions. In talking about the brand new X-Men movie that Marvel is working on inside the MCU, it's still going to be a little while before that actually happens. Like, we have to actually see a couple more X-Men characters show up before they can actually put them on a team together. Kevin Feige has said that he's introducing X-Men characters through Marvel Phase 5 movies and Disney Plus series, like one at a time, all over the place. It sounds like Marvel's first big solo X-Men movie, like where they actually come together as a team, might not happen till after Secret Wars. There's been a lot of theories online about there being some behind-the-scenes contractual issues with them doing a solo X-Men movie really quickly, and that's why they're waiting so long. That could be the case. But part of the reason is that a lot of the plans that Kevin Feige made for Marvel Phase 4, for example, started way before they bought Fox and got all the Marvel characters back. Marvel typically plans their movies and starts signing contracts about 5 years in advance. So a lot of the contracts for a lot of these movies and the way things worked out got planned long before the deal for the Fox Marvel characters actually closed. So a lot of the movies that they released during Marvel Phase 4 actually started production long before the deal closed. That's the real reason why you didn't see X-Men flying all over the place starting in 2020, like right after the deal closed. When we do get the new X-Men episodes at the end of next year, I will be doing full videos for all those, just like I do for all the other Marvel Disney Plus series. But if you do have any more X-Men mutant questions after Black Panther Wakanda Forever, just post them in the comments below. Everyone click here for my full post-credit scene video, and click here for my new Deadpool 3 video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.